Well, after years of litigation by state governments and trade groups, a federal court invalidates the EPA's 2015 expansion of jurisdiction over small and isolated waters. And a very encouraging move for the ag sector. Joining us now is Don Parrish with the American Farm Bureau. Thanks so much for joining us, Don. Let's start with last week's court ruling and what it means for farmers.
Well, this is a huge win for farmers and ranchers. It's something that we've been saying for a long time, that this agency reached too far and ultimately tried to turn a statute that regulates water into a land use statute.
Okay, Don, talk about what the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers were doing to violate regarding the 2015 water rule. What were they doing wrong? What needed to be fixed?
Well, that's a very specific, request by this court, and that request would be to do the process right, to dot every I to cross every T. And the two things that they were sent back to do when they invalidated this rule and remanded it back to the agency is they said you can't bring up things just kind of out of thin air. You've got to give the public a full understanding of what you're intending to do in terms of putting this rule together. The two areas that they were most critical on, or were specific on, was the distance limitations that just kind of appeared in the final rule when we were talking about defining adjacency, as well as not giving the public an opportunity to comment on the final connectivity report.
You know, Don, one thing that we love about the AFBF, you really care about the livelihood of farmers and ranchers across this country. Your organization considers this ruling to be a big win. Talk about why.
Well, you know, the reason this is so important is that we all care about water. We all want water to be clean when we turn on the tap, but we also want very clear rules. We don't want the farmers and ranchers to worry about having to go out on their farm and plow or to use their land in ways that might get them into trouble, because the Clean Water Act is a civil liability statute. It is one that carries significant criminal penalties as well. So the last thing we want is to farmers to kind of inadvertently and accidentally violate the law by EPA and the Corps developing a statute that they really can't understand or know how to comply with. So we want clarity. We want it to be understandable, and we think what this administration is doing is trying to put something in place that provides that clarity.
All right, Don, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. AFBF Senior Director of Regulatory Relations, Don Parrish.